hold on, hisham, I need to get my notes out here. Wow, of course I didn't.
Guys, my arm already hurts.
Good luck.
Okay,
Yeah, let's go, hisham.
From my TED Talk and from the movie I just watched, that eutrophication or nutrient pollution is a global issue, and it being one of the 9 boundaries that we cannot cross in order to ensure the safety and health of our planet. But yet, despite this, governments across the globe have often disregarded this problem, and this is not because of its difficulty. Because for my lecture project, I was able to solve this issue as a high schooler with just some pills which I can show you later. But before I begin on that, I want to first talk about why I even chose this project in the first place. So in addition to what I've already said about being a huge problem, my partner used to live by a lake. And this lake, we used to have a ton of fishermen, used to have a lot of people visiting it for various reasons, but it soon began to decline due to pollution or due to a lot of other reasons, right? And even in our own waterways in Hong Kong, right? We had people reporting of dead fish across regions in Compton, for example, just white dots of dead fish spreading around due to pollution, due to other reasons, right? And so this all accumulated into my goal of trying to help or clean a lake and benefit in any way possible. Now, this is a bit broad, but through my first phase of research, I began to start narrowing it down. So through my FLP research, through additional research, I realized that to really specify my goal was through solving eutrophication, or by addressing nutrient pollution in a specific lake. And this all really allowed me to create my question of how can I reduce nutrient levels in water bodies. And this is a very complicated topic, right? Something that a lot of professionals, a lot of scientists have to work on, meaning that I could not do this on my own. And so I had to look for my own professional help, in which I was able to find a professor named Jin Yao Tang at the HKU University in the Department of Chemistry. And he's a really smart guy. He got right? And he also has a lot of knowledge about this topic, having even written a research paper all about nitrites in water bodies, right? That was one of his research papers that he has wrote. So he's definitely qualified to help us. And so the first advice that he gave us was to help, obviously find a lake, but to create testing strips. And so what these testing strips really are is that they allowed us to estimate the amount of nitrogen in a lake. And so first, we had to use a flamethrower for some reason to create it, but we created these strips, right? And they allowed us to estimate the amount of nitrite in a water body. And so we went to a various number of lakes. Our first choice was Taita Reservoir, which might have not been the best solution, as it's probably the cleanest lake that we found.
It was?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, yeah.
But then we finally settled on the region of Compton, which has already a really dirty water. And when we used the strips, we found that there was an excessive presence of nutrients, specifically ammonia and nitrate. Now, I do want to clarify that these strips aren't the most reliable, meaning we had to go back for an additional round of tests with the professor to make sure that we were actually correct. And so, of course, we got the samples from the lake, and we got the samples from the lake, went to and started testing them with a spectrometer. And so we had two. Yeah, we got to 2 different samples, right? And so this one right here, actually you can probably tell by the graph, I had little to no excessive amount of nutrients. But over here, you can see, this obviously with the graph, with the Y being the concentration, there was actually a lot of nitrite in the first sample that we brought. Meaning that at this point we had a base for our thing. We knew that we knew the lake that we wanted to help. We knew what we wanted to do. Now we actually had to create a solution. And so in the beginning, we had a lot of different ideas through our research. For example, we could have done nanobubbles. We could have done artificial input of plants. But because we had a chemistry professor with us, right, we decided to go on a more chemistry-driven approach. What he talked about was pills. And so pills, which I can show you. But basically, he helped us develop some pills which worked. We needed 2 different sets of pills. One to neutralize water, and the other one to actually alleviate the nitrogen, right? And this one took a lot of struggle, right? Because this was also the first time the chemistry professor has done this. And so using the help of him, we were able to go to the lab a second time. We were able to create the pills. But the problem was that it didn't work. The problem was that it didn't work, right? We were planning this didn't work because when we tested, right, almost nothing happened, right? It just didn't work. And so what the chemistry professor and us decided to was, one, we were going to try a different chemical substance, well, that can't even name, it's pretty long. But it also to be a bit more careful and try again, be more specific in the measurements. And finally, we were able to have it work. So how we tested it was that we had a solution that if this thing were to turn purple, that means that the actual thing was working, that it was reducing nitrate. But if it was just clean, nothing happened, it wouldn't work. And with that, we were able to create these two buckets of pills, right? These are our own buckets, but he had helped us create these two pills. So this one right here basically allowed us to neutralize the water, and then this one right here actually did the work, right? This one actually helped alleviate the nitrogen, and we were testing it, and it actually worked. And we actually now, we actually aimed and finished our goal of creating a solution for eutrophication. And now the final thing was to actually implement it. Now this thing was a bit of a challenge because while we did have permission to get the samples from the lake by the government, we're not actually allowed to put it in because reasonably they want an unknown substance into a lake, right? But of course, for our project I did with accumulation of all the research. I used his own research paper, I used the own knowledge we've got, I showed them the pills. We sent an email to the government in hopes that they would actually take action, or maybe they would even contact us about using our own solution, right? Because it is a professional, it is like supported by HKU, a really known university, right? And that's what we hope to do. But in the end, we were still able to create a solution, and now all we want is just to have the government implement this solution or any other solution that they want. And this all leads me to my reflection, right? As I just talked about the difficulty of government approval, this is a bit more practical, but be it from fundraising, be it from, as in specifically from my own experiences, right? Government approval is a really big struggle in elected projects or anything. For example, even if you want to fundraise for cancer, right, you have to go through a ton of barriers. And for us, even though we had a solution supported by HQ, supported by a PhD professor, right, they still wouldn't allow it. And it's a bit frustrating knowing that they themselves aren't even doing anything towards eutrophication or nutrient pollution, but still, won't allow for any of this to happen. And that's just one of the takeaways I got. Again, something I feel like I did really good was, because this was a really scientific driven project, right? You needed a lot of knowledge on what eutrophication is, right? Because in the video which you saw, right, many of you didn't even know what eutrophication was before my TED talk or before the video we watched. Right? Before the video we watched. And so I need to do a lot of research through my FLP, through the additional research, in order to know that we had to create pills, to know that all the different backsides, all the downsides of the solution. But overall, for my project, this knowledge and research was really important in order for me to accomplish it. If I had not done the research, I don't think we would even be able to have created these pills or even be able to effectively find a good solution. And now on the two more broader reflections I got was one about ignorance, right? As I talked about repeatedly, a lot of governments don't take action on this, right? A lot of us didn't even know this was a thing, right? And it's because a lot of, we don't live right next to a lake, right? We don't really see nutrient pollution. You cannot see nutrient pollution with your own eyes, aside from when algae start to grow. And these algae usually only grow in the summer. I mean, in the winter, you think it's a regular clean old lake, despite it having a huge risk of developing algae blooms and maybe in the future ruining a lot of people's lives. And even because you're all students, but these governments, they have scientists, right? They have a whole lab of people who know about the solution. And as I talked about in my TED talk, right, the biggest river of the United States had only 1% of it tested for nitrogen and phosphorus. And finally, my last reflection was about levers and takers. I touched about this on my TED talk about the cause, about fertilizer, about how humans have caused this, right? Because they are taking more than they need. They're using much more fertilizer than they need because all they're wanting is money. They're going so much for money. They're going so much for the additional crop that they start embodying these taker aspects. They start causing all this water flow of combined buying fertilizers into our own lakes, right? This Compton River, right? It has a ton. It's really back in the. It's right next to the China border. There's a lot of different. It's not a big city, right? It's a ton of farms, a lot of countryside, right? And a lot of fertilizer is being used running off into this lake, and that's one of the biggest things that really caused the Compton River, or thousands of rivers across the world, to experience eutrophication. And so all of these stuff really allowed me to reflect and know what a lot of us have to do in order to not have something that comes to river, not having like a high school having to solve a problem. Instead, it should be the government. It should be, even us. Maybe it should be the farmers. It should be us not, supporting all these fertilizer-based products. And yeah, that's my.